for tuning in again today. I'm joined by my co-host Kausa and the big dog Rexy. Today we're going to go over some interesting topics. The first one is YouTubers retiring, and then was followed by Microsoft's layoffs, and thirdly, AI in sign language. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to The Boys on the Mic, the one-stop audio and video experience where the worlds of gaming and technology collide. I'm Nowakas, and I'm thrilled to be here with the dynamic duo, Kausa and Rex. How's it going, guys?
Hey Nowakas! Hey listeners! Kausa here. We're pumped to bring you another episode filled with the latest and the greatest in gaming and tech. No matter what kind of gamer you are or how tech-savvy you might be, we got something just for you.
That's right, Rexy here, and we're stoked to have you join us. Whether you're a long-time listener or just discovering the podcast, you're in for a treat. We dive deep into all things gaming and tech, bringing you the news, reviews, and experiences from around the digital world.
And don't forget, if you love the vibe, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It helps more gamers and tech enthusiasts like you find our show. Follow us on Tech Trio Tales to stay in the loop and become part of our growing community.
Got a topic you want us to cover? Or you just want to share your latest gaming victory? Reach out to us on our socials or in the comment section. We love hearing from our listeners.
All right, team, gear up because it's time to jump into another epic episode. Let's revive, respawn, power up, and go!
Boys,
what's going on?
7:30 a.m. Brisbane time. Is that 8:30 Melbourne time?
Yeah, it's 8:30. It's not too bad here.
Not too bad. Yeah, it was like 37 degrees yesterday here in Queensland. So today it's just pouring down. Classic Brisbane weather.
Yeah, that's always the rule all the time, right? And the rain comes.
And it just makes it so humid.
All right, jumping into our first topic for today. It's a pretty interesting one. At the start of 2024, we've just had an influx of like really big, prominent YouTubers announcing their retirement. Guys like Matt Pat, Captain Sparkles, Tom Scott, the Capina Effect. These guys have all come online and pretty much announced their retirement from YouTube. And if you read into it, it's not really a retirement. It's sort of like they're just finishing the channel that they started and they're going into other areas. Some of the reasons stem from burnout, financial uncertainties, and the challenges that come with creating YouTube content and demonetization. Many of the creators, particularly those who began in 2009 and 2014, they're just exploring new ways that they can create content online, and something that aligns more to what their interests lie in now. You know, despite all these changes, YouTube is still growing. There's still 114 million active channels. That's including us, Tech Trio Tales, or the Boys on the Mic, for that matter.
Yeah. I was gonna say everyone is quitting, but here we are.
So yeah, that's there's a few things that I wanted to ask you guys, and probably the first question was, you know, with all these people, all these big guys quitting, what is the impact of audience expectations on YouTubers, and I guess maybe within our own content and experience with the podcast? How have you guys found that, you know, trying to meet expectations, trying to align yourself with a certain niche, you know, perhaps maybe that's not exactly what you started out or wanted to create in the beginning, but you found that maybe you have to do this certain content to be popular,
to fit in. It's like another community within a community.
Yeah.
I guess it's more like we are at some point in the discovering part, which is probably the most intriguing and interesting at all from all of them. Like from what I've seen, people normally in these videos that they talk about why are they quitting. Many of the reasons is an economical perspective, because as any other job, most people that have like this such a popularity in this platform, they do a living for it. So technically, making 4 videos a week, or if not more, it's actually a full-time job. So technically for them, even I see the numbers, this guy, I think Tech Lead, he's an ex-Google guy, and he mentioned that making 4 videos of having 100K views, it makes just 500 USD bucks every time that you post one of these. So if you put that in a year's salary, that will be around like 24K. So
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's not much really. Like if that's your full time job, right? So I guess from that
Yeah.
perspective, depends how you manage it. I don't think it's viable anymore because there's so many competition that at some point it becomes irrelevant. Like you are one of the bench.
There's so many different types of platforms now. Like YouTube's not the only one. So there's heaps of other platforms where you can, gain income. So like Twitch, Kick, like all these other platforms that, live streaming is a bit more popular now. And I think that, having that uncertainty, like amount of money is another option, like Tor said, with why they're sort of, very skeptical about it. Because I think in anyone or any practical mind, something that you're unsure of is a bit risky, and a lot of people tend to not really take those risks. But if they do, like sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't, and that's all part of it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the risk, right? Like you are putting all this time and money aside just for these. And when does it come back? Like you can make content out of anything. Like you can use your phone, yeah, just like us. But at the end of the day, you always want to give more, like better content, and that means investing money. But is I think everyone that is on that point of popularity, they've reached the peak, and then they start like decreasing, and they never come back again to the peak. And even if they improve the content, they spend more money, it's still the same. So I think that's what worries them. Like they are not getting benefits out of they getting better at the job.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these guys have been doing this for like maybe
Yeah.
10, 15 years, 20 years time. And I think a lot of those guys are facing what we call burnout, where they've been doing the same thing. And there's
Yeah.
also like what they call like the paradox of choice in creative freedom, where just because you're being creative, it doesn't always mean that you have the choice to choose what you create, especially if, like you guys were saying, the market is so saturated with so many different creators, like 114 million active channels, right? That is such a big market of competition. So like if you have a niche, you have to deliver to that niche. You can't have a channel that focuses on gaming and then all of a sudden one day decide to become a gym vlog channel. It just doesn't
That's a
work.
good
Like
example.
all the gamers that are watching your channel are going to be like, I subscribe to you for gaming.
Yeah.
Why the heck
What are
are
you
you
doing?
doing
Yeah.
workouts? I'm not interested in this. And then all of a sudden your views go down. But the actual creator, maybe their mental health is not that great, and they want to like try and escape from just the gaming channel and do something else. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of these veterans are they're announcing their retirement from the channel, but they're going to explore things that they would rather do, like starting another channel or anything. They're not really quitting. They're just quitting from that one
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think because sometimes people relate, even as an artist. Let's say if you're an actor, like people relate yourself with a specific, let's say, character. So at some point, let's say Harry Potter. That's a pretty good example. Like that guy, everyone knows him from Harry Potter. I didn't even say his name, like Daniel Radcliffe. Like
Yeah.
it's just in my mind Harry Potter, and that's I think the same way as YouTubers are assigned to the channel. Like I know that guy, he's a tech guy, like that's the only thing that you can think of, and you put them into a frame and you say that's all I want to see. That's all I know.
Yeah, and I think also adapting to different changes in algorithms and also culture. For those guys that have been involved in YouTube for so long, you imagine what YouTube was 10 years ago as like opposed to today. Production quality and the level of video editing, everything is increased, and every year it changes. It's not just like it changes over 2 to 5 years. Literally every year, they'll somebody will bring out a playbook, and the algorithm will change. So, I think a lot of these veteran content creators are probably feeling the strain of having to adapt to, new formats, cultures.
And I think there was this promise of YouTube being replace the TV for God's sakes, because technically YouTube was aiming to take over the new family content. So technically everything, but that doesn't happen just yet. So at some point, because we also have more platforms, the audience it's diversify everywhere. So it's not just YouTube that it's the mainstream product.
Yeah. One other thing that I thought another point that would be interesting to bring up is, personal values as well. The reasons why these guys started the channels. And when they first start off, they're probably very passionate about it. It's more of a hobby rather than a job. And then as time goes on and they get bigger and they expand, brand deals come on board, and then the pressure starts to mount behind what content they're delivering. And so, like, how does that change in terms of, just, I guess, the feeling or the essence of what the channel started off with and why it became famous versus what it's evolved into, becomes a bit more corporate and a bit more clinical.
Yeah, it's a good point. What will you do with million views?
Like you said, like what you say or what you do can sort of be restricted because you're actually being funded by people or sponsored by them. I can say that, what we're doing now is sort of a hobby, and we're enjoying it, and we're doing it because we love it. We're not restricted by anyone or anything.
Yeah.
So I could definitely think in a perspective, like if we were to sort of, I don't know, get famous or something, we definitely, have to really think about what we're saying and our audience, because the more people you view, the more impact of what you say can sort of do for your viewers and people watching.
Yeah, and I think most of people that create content don't think about that beforehand. They just start off as what we said, like as a hobby, and then suddenly becomes a massive thing, and it's like out of their control. So they don't realize the impact they have. And at some point, I don't know if you heard the news, but as like the aspirational jobs in the US, I think one of the top of the range, I think it's YouTuber. And if you think that like it's people that um, they are thinking this as a career path, but is there a really instructions manuals? There's not such a thing that someone shows you how to be good at that job, right? It's all self-taught. So at some point you learn on the job, but there's no values within the job. Normally, when you are in an institution, normally they bring those values onto you, and at some point that has an influence, even if you have your own interests.
Yeah, that also brings us to like another interesting point, a couple of points where just the unsustainability of constant innovation. The expectation that constant innovation and unique content can be unsustainable in the long run. How you continuously be able to adapt to changes and things like that. It's very tiring, and there's a lot of pressure on one person. And probably the other thing as well that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes, like let's not get it twisted. Like YouTubing is a dream job, and everybody is probably attracted to like the fame and the I guess the reach that you can have with it. But the one thing that they don't really take into account is all the planning that goes on behind the scenes, all the editing that gets done. If you like it, it's not a big deal. But if it's not your forte, then it sort of becomes a chore. And, even though it might be a dream job, it's still a job at the end of the day. And if you're not 100% like committed to it or enjoy it, then these things can become tasks over time. I mean, even with our own experiences, how the coordination between the three of us and also the editing and, posting to different platforms, this is all stuff that probably wasn't around 10 or 20 years ago when these influencers that are quitting now started.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
It's almost like a prehistoric times where the tools that they had were primitive.
Yeah, it's evolved quickly. Sorry, there's a video from Daft Punk where the music clip is about a robot moving, and it's moving very slowly and steadily. And it's one of those AI videos, like the ones that we were talking about in the previous episodes, where the technology slowly evolves, but it's moving at a slow pace. There's a bit of, metaphors and imagery in the music video. And then it gets to a point where the robot starts to try and run, and it starts to sprint. And as it sprints, it evolves quicker, but it also turns into this big fireball and explodes. And I think that might be where a lot of these content creators are at the moment, where, that they were going steady at a steady pace. And then as soon as they started to, speed up and run as fast as they could, then they sort of started to fall apart. And, these things like mental health, self-care, it's massive these days. And I think that's why these guys are seeing that and taking a step back.
Yeah, they have their good reasons to do it. And we are not going to complain.
We'll just slide right in there. And probably that's like the other thing as well. A lot of these titans that have been around for many years, they're making room for the new generation or the new era of YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers, or YouTube short creators. Yeah. All right. Well, that sort of wraps that topic up. Do you guys have any
I think that's cool, man.
closing thoughts or anything else to add to it?
No, I think we at some point cover the reasons why this is happening, and at some point how also these affect us, because we are also part of this community now. And yeah, I think I respect this as any other job. Like you can just decide to do whatever you want. Actually, like there's no rules behind it. So I think just doing like it's also a personal decision, right? So it's not technically, just like you say, they are not returned to like from creating content. They're just deciding to do something else, which is totally fine.
All right, heading into the next topic that we're doing today, Microsoft lays over just under 2,000 employees in a significant development within the tech and gaming industry. It's from its gaming division following its $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Just to put this in context, this is a $1 billion deal. $69 billion. It's massive. People across Xbox, ZeniMax, and it follows a series of layoffs across the tech sector as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
The layoffs come amid leadership changes, with Activision CEO Bobby Kotick leaving, and also Blizzard's boss Mike Ibarra. Sorry, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. These guys have stepped down. These changes are part of a larger trend in the gaming industry, which has seen substantial job cuts over the past year, reflecting the broader economic challenges.
Yeah. If I have the right number, I think in total around these last couple of months, we had like 10,000 jobs laid off. So at some point, this is a trend, just like you said. And there's a scary part. It's like, okay, they used me when they needed me, but now that they don't need us, they can just get rid of me. And are the biggest companies in the world that everyone is looking for these jobs. So,
let it go.
Yeah, let it go. But technically, imagine like you're looking for a job and you say, "Oh, Microsoft looks like the big deal. I want to reach to that company." Okay, so what happens if you apply to this job, you get it, and then suddenly they say, "No, man, like I don't need you anymore." So is this the way it's gonna be now? It's more like it's as a contractor, or because people want security, stability at some point. So is that the job that you just want to have for a few years and then move somewhere else, or is that the job that you want to stay? It changes a bit of the culture too inside, and I think a good example of that, it was Satoru Iwata, from ex Nintendo president. He basically said if you reduce the number of employees for a short-term results, this will definitely have an impact on the morale. So I think that's a great point. Like it's like people around just talk, and this becomes also a scary part of working for a big company.
Yeah, just to put in perspective as well.
Yeah,
2,000 employees let go from Blizzard and Microsoft, their full staff is about 22,000. So it's a large percentage of their actual like global workforce.
Yeah.
And we can sort of see that, like we know that during COVID, this industry, gaming industry, tech, it was a bit like of a boom for them. And then now with all of these cuts, is this like an economic indicator of recession incoming?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the
Maybe.
industry was flourishing. Yeah, it's not necessarily like it's a recession because you can see that there's big margins in the profits, but also it means that they are changing their ways. Like Amazon is a good example. Amazon started hiring hundreds of people over the COVID because they needed. But now that they got the profit, they are using that profit to invest in new technology, and that new technology is replacing some of the workers. They're using robots, they're using technology, and all this is a shift of what they want for the future, and that means being sustainable company in the long run.
Yeah, is it more like a bit of rationalization, the post COVID era where the market is actually facing its realities? During COVID there was a boom, and then now we're sort of starting to see the reality of it, where they're starting to cut the fat and optimize their operations, because it's economically it's not favorable for them at the moment. But the other thing as well on this is that
Definitely
there is an impact on the actual game development. So a lot of games that were in the pipeline to be released with such a big cut on workforce, projects are either going to be cancelled, paused, delayed. But this may also open up an opportunity for Blizzard and Activision to create more quality rather than just spitting out game after game after game. Although I don't think we're going to see a change to the Call of Duty formula. They're still going to release one every year.
Yeah, it at some point people still complain, but it works for them. Like it makes good profit, and every time that it didn't work, they just look for like a new sort of project. But they still do the same. Like there's not much that they change. It's like FIFA. FIFA's done the same formula for years. Small improvements. They reset the bar, and like they're still making profit. Like it's crazy, but yeah, also becomes addictive for as a gamer. So they it's almost like it's a trend that every year you're gonna buy it, even if you don't like it. Even if you don't like
it almost becomes religious, like people that play COD, they have to get the next one, because if you don't buy it, then you'll be left behind in the old one, and then all your friends or your mates or the people you play with are going to move on to the next one. So you sort of feel like you have to upgrade to sort of keep up with the what's trending in gaming. Sometimes that all comes down to a personal choice if you want to invest in it or not.
That's a good point. It's also almost like the new social pressure. It's almost like have a drink with me. No, man, I don't want. No, but have a drink. Take it.
Taste it. It's nice.
When are you jumping on?
Mate, I haven't bought the game.
Have you got?
No.
Just get that game. Just chuck it on any of the afterpay.
Okay. And you pass your card. It is the new social pressure.
I think that this is going to set the tone for big companies moving forward. And probably it'll have an effect on small to medium companies as well. They're probably going to have to, the layoffs might not be as big, but I think they'll see that as a sign and then kind of follow suit.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like a medium company could have probably up to, I don't know, from 100 to 1,000. So technically it's a whole medium company. So where all these people is going to go, they start looking for other big companies or medium companies. And that means the workforce needs to adjust to what it's happening. And sometimes there's not enough jobs for experts. These people are at some point not experts, but a specialized workforce. So it means they need to find a very specific job. Otherwise, they need to do something else that probably they won't take advantage of the expertise.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Having so much
adapt and change.
veteran expertise out in the employment market. One thing that I've noticed as well, coming from and this doesn't happen just recently. This has probably been over the last 2 to 3 years, and probably even 4 years, and we're sort of starting to see games come out that are like 2 to 3 years in development from people who have been let go by big tech companies and then started their own small indie company. But the difference between these guys is they're not a traditional indie where it's their first game that they made. These guys are professional veterans who are very skilled at what they do. And the quality of the games that they are bringing out is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rex, like I reckon like some people like of these workers will go land into the small like not startups, as people that have this beautiful vision, but they don't have the right skills to create it. So I reckon that also opens up the door for more developers. So create more games or more and different industries too, because gaming is it's a big one, but they can transfer their skills somewhere else.
Imagine if you were an indie company, right? And you,
Yeah.
like you said, you had this big
And-
vision and this goal, and all of a sudden, some veteran developer just knocks on your door and says, "Hey, I'd like to work with you on this project. I just lost my job over at Microsoft." You know, that could be game changing for a small company.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there are some
and
good
what they
skills.
can bring to the table might help adapt and grow your company as well.
Yeah, definitely some good silver linings there. And
Yeah.
probably one thing that I'd pose to you guys, you know, consumer wise, with the branding of these large companies after they do such a large scale layoff, you know, how does that affect your perception of that company? Have they lost a bit of their reputation by making these tough choices? You know, would you support Activision and Blizzard after they've done something like this?
Example of when I was back in uni, I will see Amazon. I'll put the example of Amazon because this is well related to what I do on my job. So I think Amazon was the company that I was aiming for. But then with all these, I say like, okay, I can be so good at my job and get the job that I want at Amazon, say, and then in 2 years or 1 year time, I might not get that job and I need to find somewhere else. So I think at some point it does change my perspective of how or where I want to aim, because definitely like as an aspirational Amazon employee, I think that I might not have a future, and the more that you grow, the more stability that you want. So I guess that's not going to be my dream job anymore, right?
Yeah, definitely. I guess that almost ties into the first topic that we had with YouTubers, you know, starting off with their
Yeah.
dream job and then 10, 20 years down the line, they also changed their mind. And that's what was once their dream job is now just a job to them,
Yeah.
and they want to change it.
Yeah, very
Exactly.
well thought.
And I think a lot of the time, these big companies, like obviously sometimes they don't want to do these things, but they have to, with the ever changing and evolving environment and industries, like you can't blame them for doing what they're doing. I'm sure they would have critically thought about what they have to do and how to evolve their company. So you can be upset about it, but it has to happen for their own growth,
It's
whatever
also of
they're
the
doing.
nature of the business.
Exactly.
Like these guys, they are run by a whole organization on the back, which is the stakeholders. They need to take care of the stakeholders in order to keep growing or keep progressing. So at some point, I'll be very straight. Like stakeholders, they don't care much about how good is your job. It's more like how much money are you making? Like, are you growing? Oh, last year you grow 10%. This year is 7. Man, like that's not what I pay for, right? So the perspective here is more numbers. They don't see people as people. They just see numbers, and that transfers to money. So
Percentages. Yeah.
not and not necessarily the people that are on top of the chain, like CEOs, are the ones that make these decisions, but they are part of it. So I guess you are just a number, right? in big corporations, you are just one
Yeah.
more. So unless you invented the formula of AI.
It's a weird balance between being a cog, a small cog in a big machine, but for that machine to run, they require that small cog. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just about how big of a cog you are and how important you are to the overall machine that's running. And I guess for Microsoft and Blizzard, 2,000 of those people weren't enough to keep the machine running. Especially in this time where they had to make some tough decisions. I guess also thinking about such large companies and multinational companies.
Yeah.
Should there be some sort of government or regulatory laws or action taken to
Protect the
help
employees.
protect the employees, especially if we are going into some sort of economic downturn, to help give people some sort of sustainability and reliability, and consistency with their work and employment. It's important, not just on a company level, but also on like a government, country level, national level, for people to feel like there is some sort of stability there. What do you guys think about that?
Excellent point. I guess,
Definitely.
yeah, I feel like at some point, government, what they need to take care of the welfare, right? So that means the community as in all. So think about AI. AI has created new jobs, which are more valuable for the community, but at the same time has destroyed many jobs in the short term. And I think the job of the government itself is to find a way to put that people that lost their job into a new job and probably a better one. And with that said, I think they need to work along with the companies to find a way to retrain all these people that are moving into these industries to somewhere else or within the same industry with a better job. It's not just
Yep.
the companies just them doing something. It's more like they need to work together to actually find a proper solution.
Yeah, that's a good place to land on, because it's kind of hard. It's a bit of a gray area. Like, whose responsibility does it fall on? Does it fall on the ex-employer's job to help transition these people into new jobs, or is it the government's responsibility to take all of these people and provide them with an alternative work space?
Yeah.
Um,
I guess, it all depends on like what your job is. If you're full-time, casual, part-time, definitely having going into those jobs and those different types, you choose to go into it, knowing the consequences. But it'll definitely be better if the government sort of had some, I don't know, guidelines or something just to sort of help those people when something like this happens. Because sometimes might not be the company's fault, but if there was like government educational training stuff online to help adapt with the new ever-changing community and technology. So I'm trying
yeah,
to make sense, bro. Like, because like if you sometimes it's like not the responsibility of the company,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I understand. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. Like,
It's where exactly the responsibility lands, but at some point, even saying that it's a gray area, you also have to think a change of responsibility. So even if you are not directly affecting the outcome, at some point you are part of the chain. So I think it's not just the company, it's not just the government, it's not just the employee, it's not just institutions, it's all of them at some point. So I think as is if you see the bigger picture, they all have to contribute to put all these people back into the society, because that means like if they are not working, they are not paying taxes. That means revenue for the government. If they are not working, they have to feed a family. That means they become poor, and that also affects the whole welfare. So yeah, I think everything is connected, and our job, like the society job, is to find a way to like find a solution.
and I think it depends on what lens you're looking at it.
exactly. To
Micro, if you
integrate.
focus in on the person, of course it's their responsibility. If I'm unemployed, there's nobody that's coming to save me. I have to go out, I have to apply, and I have to find jobs. If you start to zoom out, like you were saying, Kausa, it sort of then becomes more of the government and the employer's responsibility to help you get to the next stage. Have all those jobs there ready to go, and
Mhm.
and have the support there between your previous job and the next one. Alrighty. Well, I guess we can move on to our last topic now.
So last topic today, AI technology used by Sign for Deaf. So this is a company that was sort of integrating sign language by using AI. So this AI technology is a blend of computer vision and machine learning algorithms. But what does this mean? All right, let me break it down for you. First, the AI uses camera to capture hand movements, facial expression, and the person communicating in sign language. This is where computer vision comes in. Computer vision is a field of AI that enables computers to interpret and understand the visual world around us. Now, consider how complex sign language can be. It's not just about hand movements, it also involves facial expression and body language. That's a lot of information for a machine to understand. So, how does AI do it? This is where machine learning enters the scene. The AI has been trained on a large data set of sign language gestures. Machine learning is a process where AI learns patterns from the data it is exposed to. In this case, the AI is taught to recognize and understand these gestures based on the patterns it's learned from the database. Once it identifies these gestures, it can translate them into a corresponding text or spoken language. So depending on what you're talking or who you're talking to and what you sort of want to give out. All of this happens as well in real time, allowing the AI to provide instant translation of sign language, which I think is pretty cool.
Mm.
Let's consider the impact of this technology. Imagine a conversation between a deaf individual and someone who doesn't understand sign language. Without a translator, this conversation could be very difficult or even impossible. But with this AI, the barriers are broken down and the translated text is either displayed on the screen or converted into speech, allowing the non-sign language user to understand what's being communicated. I think this technology is a game changer, not just for the deaf community, but for everyone. It allows more inclusive environment where everyone can communicate efficiently regardless of your hearing abilities. I think this is a great example of how AI technology can have a profound impact on the society, breaking the barriers and bringing people closer together. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that and see how you guys would think about it. And we got a
Before we
few
jump,
slides that I wanted to share as well.
before we jump in on the topic,
Yeah, go on.
this product, like I don't know, I understand what you said, everything, but I feel like I've been seduced by a salesman. I like it, man. Like I want to buy it.
Initially, hopefully, I can sign up to a demo, which is it's in the Sign by Deaf website, where we can hopefully
Mhm.
have a live translator in our podcast. But that's a future goal,
Yeah.
and hopefully they get back
Ooh.
to us. I thought it was pretty cool.
Well,
I just want.
yeah, at some point it will be good because we're all interested on technology, and I think our personal interest is to like become more accessible to people. And we've been thinking about translations, like how to reach bigger audiences, but at the same time, all audiences that we wouldn't be able to access without this technology. So, yeah, I think also has an impact for us and for the wider community.
You think about it as well, like the actual man hours that actually goes into translating something, it can be quite tedious and laborious for somebody to do that task. If it can be done by AI, you know, it can be done quickly, and if it can be done effectively, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So this is the first one, which is a web sign language plugin. So you can actually add it into a browser. It can translate what's coming up on the web page. So this
Is
is
it like you
one option that you can
select
have.
what you want to be translated, and then it'll translate that selection?
I'm pretty sure it will.
The
And
bits on
then
the web
you can
page.
also
Yeah.
sorry, I'll go back. Yeah. So whatever you want to click in, so it sort of does like a translation
It
of
will sign that.
what's there. Yeah, and then obviously the next one is video as well. So you can have it translate video while you're watching it, which I think is awesome because sometimes having subtitles, you don't get the full emotion of what's trying to be said, and I think that's awesome as well when you can have it in video
Yeah,
translation.
that's a
The
really
next
good
one,
point.
cited communication system, where you can have, let's say, a video call with someone else who's, like I said in my scenario, where it can have live translation. So people who are deaf can have the confidence to just talk to anyone and just have this, translator there.
A good point that you said is basically, if you think about it, when your native language is sign language, that means some of the translation, well, let's say with the subtitles, won't be translated perfectly. So at some point, you won't get the full meaning of it. And just being able to translate into a native sign language, that means they will get
Yep.
the full meaning of it. And we don't think about this because we are not users
Yeah.
of it. But say, for instance, I speak Spanish and I just only speak Spanish. If you translate any other language into Spanish, there's a lot of things that you're going to lose in between translation. So think about the same perspective when you are translating
Exactly.
anything into sign language or subtitles.
as well. A big part of sign
Yeah.
language is
Just
emotion, and the same thing can happen as an analogy for us who don't use sign language is emails or text.
Mm,
The emotion is very difficult without the use of emojis to be translated via text. For us, our default is speaking, and you can
yeah.
tell what is it the you can tell the
mannerisms, like it's a
you can
no
tell
verbal communication.
yeah, you can tell the vibe, you can tell the general feeling of a conversation
Yeah.
when you're actually talking to somebody, and it's exactly the same thing
You
for
can.
sign language. If they can't
Yeah.
see somebody's facial expressions,
Hmm.
they can't read the emotion.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool. I think at the moment, this company is using American Sign Language. I'm not too
Hmm.
sure if they're going to integrate other sort of languages from around the world, because I do know there is quite a lot and quite a variation of different sign languages, just as like our languages, they have their own types from different countries. And yeah, so hopefully if they can integrate and have all of them in translate to a specific type of sign language as well, tackle the global market as well.
Yeah. Just by doing some research before, I found that there's around 300 different sign languages
Mhm.
across the globe, and there is 72 million deaf or hard of hearing people worldwide that uses sign languages. So if you think about it, the same as English has become
Mhm.
a global language. At some point, unifying these techniques by using technology, you can interconnect different sign languages, which there's many, and they can speak each other. Or even if they don't actually translate it, they don't have to translate it. That this machine can do it for them.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
one assumption that a lot of people may make is that sign language is all the same language. People may not
Hmm.
really understand or realize that there are different, like any language, there's different dialects. It's unique to every country. One important and cool thing to mention
Yeah.
is that our mother is actually a teacher of the deaf, a sign language teacher, and we used to live in Samoa. Part of her thesis for her master's was going through the whole island and seeing how many disabled people there were in the whole island because it had never been done before.
Hmm.
And from that, she actually realized how many deaf people were actually in rural villages in Samoa. And part of her work was to try and help them get accessibility to language. And she actually wrote the dictionary for Samoan Sign Language. It
Oh,
hadn't
wow.
been officially documented. Yeah, it's a big thing. So shout out to mom. She's probably watching this. I know she watches every podcast, and my sister as well. It's important to mention that she's training to become a sign language or a teacher of the deaf as well.
That's
I think
a big
also why
thing.
we're sort of excited about this as well, because we've sort of been through it. And yeah, I think it's awesome. We
Said
haven't said
for
anything politically incorrect.
Yeah, that's also true because we are not experts on this topic, but yeah, like we are keen to learn if we make mistakes.
Yeah, it's actually also would be another important thing to mention
Okay.
that Nick's partner Amarina is also studying. Is it the physics of hearing and
At some point, it's all connected. And
There you
before
go. Shout
we
out.
record this episode, I asked some questions so I don't say the wrong thing.
Shout out to Amarina, man. All right. I think that's pretty much most of what we had to talk about today.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. There wasn't any other points or perspectives to raise up on that. Or,
No, I don't think
Yeah.
so for now. And
I think we
we'll
pretty
keep-
much.
beautiful. All right.
Hopefully
Well,
next time
let's do the
we'll have a translator.
yeah.
Yeah, that will be really cool. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in once again. This is Kausa. Today we have a good discussion about YouTubers retiring, the massive layoff in the tech market, and how we can use AI to empower design for dev. Thanks for helping us again, and we hope you see you in the next episode. Catch you later.